It's 900 hours Central African time on this Wednesday, the 7th of December 2016. This is Newsroom, Jumbo Africa. And a very warm welcome to the first hour. I'm Elvis Preslin.
I'm Kendall Makamate.
Now, we will be with you until 12 o'clock as we broadcast live from our Auckland Park studios here in Johannesburg. And today, we focus on the 20th anniversary of the South African Constitution. On the 8th of May, the Constitutional Assembly, 20 years ago, adopted the Constitution, which would be the blueprint of our country. So we're asking the question today, Kendall.
Yeah, no, we're asking, as we celebrate our 20 years of our Constitution, what are your views on that?
Well, let us know as soon as what you've got to say about that, and we'll take your comments as we continue. But we're also doing a poll. We're conducting that poll on the Transport Minister, the Paul Peters, that envisages combining all the municipal and provincial traffic law enforcement agencies into one organization. So here's the poll.
And we're asking all law enforcement agencies to be united into one organization, and we want your answers. And Elvis, I see it's evenly split, isn't it?
Evenly split thus far. 43 votes to go, 23 hours to vote. 51 say yes, and 49% says no. It actually makes sense if you have one united force.
Absolutely. So you can actually play in one central area instead of having to travel to Bloemfontein while you're on your way to Cape Town.
There you go. Well, on the Twitter handle at SABC Newsroom as well as on our Facebook page. But first, let's take a look at your news headlines. The inquiry into the SABC and its board is expected to begin shortly, with the Auditor General, Public Protector and ICASA to give testimony, and will go there live. The 3-year-old Everite Chauke, who was swept away during flash floods in Alexandra last month, will be laid to rest this month. And Ghana holds presidential and parliamentary elections in what is expected to be a close race. But before we get to the news, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front.
Elvis, while we wait for Mamelodi Sundowns to play their first FIFA Club World Cup match of the weekend, there's been quite a bit of football on the go. In Europe, for example, UEFA Champions League action last night as well as tonight, and this is pretty much what we're bringing for you in the sports headlines. And Arsenal were in scintillating form. They topped their Champions League group for the first time in over a decade, courtesy of a Lucas Perez hat-trick.
But here is Lucas Perez, and it's a Champions League hat-trick.
Tennis world number 2 Novak Djokovic has split with his coach Boris Becker after a bumper 3 years and 6 Grand Slam wins.
Bender goes defensive, Bastian is on the inside. They're almost going to touch, but it doesn't quite happen. Bender's going to do it again across the line, and Brad Binder wins another one.
South African Brad Binder relives a phenomenal 2016 after capturing his maiden Moto3 GP World Championship. All this and more I've got for you in detail at about 10:40 or so. For now, it is back to Elvis, who's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story this morning. The parliamentary inquiry into the affairs of the SABC gets underway as we speak. Now, this follows last week's failed legal attempt by the SABC board chairman, or chairperson, to stop it from going ahead. The public protector, Advocate Busisiwe Mkhwebane, is among the first witnesses who have been lined up to testify. Let's go there live.
We'll start the briefing at 9 o'clock, followed by ICASA, and followed by Mr. Mavuso. And that's the program, and we're ready to go as the committee. However, honourable members, I need to bring the committee up to speed with developments that took place very late yesterday afternoon, probably after 2 o'clock, to bring the committee up to speed. I will allow the committee to comment on what I'm about to say. And depending on the decision of the committee, we'll continue with the business of the day. Honourable members, yesterday afternoon, I was informed that Professor Maguve has filed a leave to appeal Judge Desai's hearings or Judge Desai's decisions of Friday. Now, members, to my knowledge, I am not aware that the court has given its reasons for the findings. And if that is the position, that the court has not given its reasons for the findings, I'm unclear on what basis an appeal could have been made. On receiving the notification from Professor Maguve, we immediately engaged senior counsel. And I want to summarize, and members, you have received both the application from Judge Maguve and also the legal advice received from senior counsel. So I'm not going to go through it, but to summarize the two salient points. Having looked at the background and where we are now, senior counsel advised that although that there is no court order prohibiting this proceedings from continuing, that's the first point he makes, that there's no court order prohibiting the proceedings from, or this inquiry to proceed. He also, however, advises that the committee should consider putting the proceedings on hold whilst we explore the appeal. He advises that the way we do that as Parliament is to seek that the courts finalize this appeal with the utmost urgency. On receiving that advice, I did indicate to the senior counsel that they must proceed in that direction, and I seek your ratification for that decision because I was not able to get hold of you. To say that senior counsel must proceed as urgently as possible to get this matter finalized, if indeed we take the decision or we take the advice of counsel. Furthermore, honourable members, you are aware that we issued summons for documents from the SABC that we thought were important for these proceedings. And I'd like to give you an update where we are as far as that is concerned. And this is as late as lunchtime yesterday. Very briefly, the response that we received from the legal team in a letter dated the 6th of December indicates that 7 documents that we requested will not be made available because disclosure may negatively impact the SABC's commercial interest. 3 documents have not been made available because, according to the legal team, it's not in their possession. And we've received 5 documents. So let me take members through the documents that SABC feels are of such a nature that it will have a negative impact on their commercial interest. The first one is the document that deals with procurement services from Sakela, Kabiso, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and Vision View. The second one that they won't make available in this category of commercial interest are documentations that relate to the multi-choice deal. The third one that they won't make available are documents that relate to the 90-10 policy. If I'm going too fast, members can indicate. The fourth one that they won't make available are documents that relate to decisions taken by the board through a round-robin fashion as opposed to a meeting with a quorum. The next one is the report of the audit committee of the board. All these are because of negative impact on commercial matters. They won't make available the SABC skills audit report conducted by PricewaterhouseCoopers, and they won't make available the risk committee reports. In terms of the reports that are not in their possession, and therefore we do not have them as we speak, are documents related to the appointment of the Group Executive Corporate Affairs, the management reports that respond to the AG's findings, and the internal audit committee meetings. Those documents are not with us because they are not in the possession of the attorneys Lucky Tekiso, according to a letter written to us on the 6th of December 2016. Now, honourable members, as members of this ad hoc committee, and indeed as members of Parliament, we must agree, all of us, that we can never allow this institution to be deterred from its constitutional obligations as set out in Section 55(2). We can never allow that to happen, as this ad hoc committee or as Parliament, because it's a constitutional obligation that we have. I also want to hasten it to say, honourable members, that whilst I think we all agree that nobody should be denied the opportunity to exercise the rights as reflected in the Bill of Rights, equally, our constitutional and legislative provisions must be exercised without an apology. In furthering the pursuit of creating a better South Africa for the marginalized and the poor, we cannot compromise on exercising without apology Parliament's right to conduct oversight. And the final point I want to make, members, before I open up to you, is that in the light of this development, if this ad hoc committee doesn't achieve anything else, we have to send a message loud and clear to all South Africans that Parliament is committed to holding people accountable and that consequent management must be a norm for those that find themselves on the wrong side of the law and on the wrong side of the Constitution. As I indicated earlier, I took the liberty of asking our legal team to be here to assist us if we need their assistance as we proceed. So, honourable members, guests, that's where we're at. We are ready to proceed, but I would like you, first of all, to ratify, if you so wish, the decision that we sought legal counsel to expedite the finalization of this appeal that we received yesterday. And secondly, for you to make any comments. We really do not have time because we were scheduled to start at 9. I have kindly asked and received agreement from the AG's office that they will allow the committee members just to exhale for a few minutes, and from there on we take a decision and we see where we take this process to. So I am now going to recognize members that want to comment, if they so wish to comment, on what I have just pronounced, and to ask those that are with us to bear with us for a few minutes. But this is a discussion of members of the committee, and there are no secrets, so there's no need to excuse anybody. At the same time, let me just also indicate that Honorable Ndlozi has apologized, but I see Honorable Hlongwane as the alternative is here. So all political parties are present from our side. I have noticed on Mahlangu, Van Dam, Mr. Singh, Memkosa, Honorable Hlongwane, Honorable Loliwe, Honorable Killian, Honorable Kubisa, and Honorable Chauke. So all members will Mokwena I did recognize. I will read their names. All members will comment. Can I just appeal to members that we are short and sharp to our point because time is against us, if that is at all possible. Can I then start with Honorable Mahlangu?
Chair, thank you. First of all, I think we should ratify the decision you took with the legal counsel to pursue the matter as urgent as it is required. And related to that matter, I don't know, members would guide. I would feel that perhaps we will need to have a closed session with the legal team to discuss matters that may require that kind of attention. I don't think it would be appropriate that we discuss it in an open meeting. Well, I find it a bit difficult that members of parliament are denied, or parliament actually is denied documents on the basis that they would affect the commercial interest of the SABC. I find it a bit difficult to understand what it is trying to say, taking into account that members of parliament have a responsibility to carry out, which is informed by the... We must remember that South Africa is a constitutional country. And therefore, everyone in the country is subject to the Constitution. I think that's very important. But secondly, members of parliament are sworn to secrecy if there are matters that are confidential. And I guess members of parliament continues and have dealt with confidential matters and have acted in accordance with the oath that they have taken, the oath of office. But I guess we will have to get those documents. Appropriate measures of law will have to unfold that we do get those documents. But the other matter that I'd like to raise are the issues of the documents that are not available. Well, I find it a bit odd that there would be documents that cannot be accounted for. I find it very strange. And my view is that as you referred to consequence management, we will have to deal with those. But I don't believe that it's true that there are documents that cannot be traced. Just make one example. Management or response by SABC on the management report of the AG. One would assume that even the AG has got those responses. Because there's a refusal to give us the management report, which both the AG and the SABC has, and the response to those response, nobody can say those responses are not there. It's just something that is very strange. I find it a bit odd. But Chair, as I conclude, just to respect your suggestion on the time question, my view would be that having dealt with all these issues, whoever is stalling the process of the hearing, if indeed we have to, at the conclusion, not continue with the meeting, people have paid cost to come to the hearing. You've got ICASA, you've got Auditor General, you have a host of other respondents, including those that are scheduled to be here tomorrow. You have the meeting scheduled by Parliament, and there are costs involved. I think it is time that these costs are charged to people who stalls the process on their individual capacity. I think that's how I would like to conclude. But just for record, I think my view is that that would be the final decision we have to take. Thank you.
Ma'am Van Dam.
Thanks, Chair. I do not agree with Council's position that we do not proceed because there's a policy which states that if there's a matter in court, you do not proceed. I mean, in his earlier opinion, he devotes quite a lot of time to talking about the rule of status quo ante, which is set in jurisprudence. He quotes court cases which establishes the status quo ante rule, which states that when there's an appeal, the status quo is restored. The status quo here is that the inquiry must go ahead. So we would absolutely not be on the wrong side of the law if we went ahead. We should not be intimidated by any people who seek to delay this matter. And it is actually quite true that Mr. Maguve seeks to delay this matter. In his application, he quite clearly states that he does not view this matter as urgent. The court can take its time on finding a date. He intends to delay this matter, and we should not feed into that. We should continue with our work because we are not on the wrong side of the law by continuing with our work. And also, Chair, I think this matter is very, very urgent. It cannot wait for the appeal matter to be heard. The board is incurably in court. It is unable to take any decisions. As we heard in court on Friday, the SABC's legal counsel couldn't even give us information about who gave them the right to litigate on behalf of the SABC. Because the board was not there to give them that right, Mr. Aguma made a decision that the SABC can litigate without board approval. The board is incurably in court. We cannot wait. We must continue with our work and must not be intimidated by anyone seeking to delay this matter. This is also a matter not only about the SABC, it's about Parliament. We are being disrespected by the SABC. We're being disrespected by Mr. Maguve, and we should not kowtow to that. Thank you, Chair.
I didn't want to interrupt, but I really think let us be courteous to everybody else and not personalize this matter, because it's the principle that I think we should be talking about. But I had allowed it so that we continue. But I'm just appealing to members that in our emotional state that we are in, let us at least respect everybody. And I'm not for 1 minute saying that you did anything wrong, Ma'am Van Dam. I'm just trying to appeal to all of us going forward. I have Madam Killian. Oh, did I? Okay, can we take, all right, do you want to go first and Killian will go second? That's fine.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. No, when you called the names, you had called me third. Firstly, I think, my view is that we need to respect the right of any individual in this country that wants to appeal any decision. Everybody has a right to do that, and I think we must accept that right, whether we agree with it or not, but it's a right that's enshrined in the Constitution. Secondly, Chair, I want to thank you for the efforts that you've made since yesterday afternoon, briefing the ad hoc committee, bringing us up to speed, sending us the legal opinion. Now, what we have before us is a legal opinion by our own senior counsel. And I think until such time that we have had an engagement with senior counsel, I will consider what's been said by the senior counsel as advice that we should follow. And the advice is that we should halt the inquiry until such time that the appeal process is settled in court. However, having said that, Chair, I think we cannot be held, as Honourable Van Dam said, we cannot be held to ransom in an unending fashion. I mean, it is in the public interest, it's in the interest of the SABC that this matter be dealt with as expeditiously as possible. And even if it means us, and I support the decision that, the recommendation that you're making, that even if we have to go to court as Parliament to ask the court to consider this appeal as urgently as possible so that we know one way or the other what we can do, I think that will be fully supported. But one begins to think, with all these court actions that are being taken and contemplated in the future, what is there to hide? One gets a perception that there are things that people want to hide from us. And that's why they want to use the legal process to stymie any progress that we may make. But I will support an urgent application. That's your first point, Chairperson. Secondly, on the non-submission of documents, it's totally, totally unacceptable. I've been in Parliament since 1994. So I have some experience about how Parliament operates, having served on SCOPA and most of the committees in Parliament. It is unacceptable that Parliament cannot be provided with documents from an organization which we have control over. The state has control over. The minister has control over. The management reports which Senator Mahlangu spoke about, I call him Senator because we started in 1994 as senators. The management report, I mean, surely unless it's a confidential document between the office of the AG and the client, we can get access to that. The Portfolio Committee on Communication should be able to provide us with that. The minister should be able to provide us with many of these documents which we've been denied up to now. Let me take 9010 as an example. Unless, Chairperson, there has been no policy, written policy, in place by the SABC when some of the decisions were taken. That's the only reason I can find. There was no policy. Decisions were taken by somebody somewhere. They round-robined and they took a decision, and therefore there's no documentary evidence to place before this committee. I think on that score, Chair, we need to ascertain what legal recourse we have, other than approaching the Portfolio Committee on Communications, approaching the Office of the Auditor General, approaching the auditors of SABC, and approaching the Minister. What other legal recourse we have? Because we cannot operate on the basis of not having documentation from any organization that is a state organization, government department, or a state-owned entity. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I would also like to concur with the ratification to expedite the appeal process. I concur with sentiments expressed that if it was in fact advised by our legal counsel that we should be cautious with proceeding, then we should take heed. We will deliberate further, I believe, shortly on the matter. Chair, I would also like to just ask clarity, and perhaps you could give that to us. Who is bringing the appeal? Is it Professor Maguve in his personal capacity, or is it the SABC? If it is the SABC, where and how was such a decision made? And then the proceeding here says they intend applying to the above honourable court. Just clarity, has it already been lodged? Has the appeal been lodged? Chairperson, that brings me to the documents. I believe if I look at those listed under the different categories, I would first like to say I concur with Honourable Singh that it is completely unprecedented that a public institution that is listed in the Public Finance Management Act, it is operating on the basis of the Broadcasting Act. It is the public broadcaster, not some other commercial station. They operate under license conditions. they are monitored by the authority, they are monitored by the Auditor General. It is completely unacceptable. The documents listed certainly has very little reference to commercial interests. I cannot for the life of me see why the 90-10 policy, for instance, is listed as one of those documents. Surely, ICASA could perhaps clarify if, in terms of the Act, the SABC has done the correct thing through a consultative process to amend its policies, because the Act is very clear. Section 6, the Charter of the Corporation, 6 sub 5 says that if the board must prepare and submit to the authority not later than 3 months after the date of conversion of policies, a copy of the new policy. But it must also go through a specific strenuous public participation process. So clearly that cannot be a commercial interest. I don't even want to refer to the audit committee reports. Those cannot be commercial sensitive documents. Skills audit report of the public broadcaster done by PwC, and so we can go on. Then what I find very difficult to comprehend is the 5 documents not in possession. Now, the Auditor General's office clearly submitted management letters to the SABC. If the SABC has lost such management letters, which would be very serious in itself, because they were supposed to have compiled an implementation plan to correct those matters of non-compliance. Clearly, then we have to go back to the Office of the Auditor General to ask them for copies of such management letters. But this Committee of Parliament must do due diligence, and we must get those documents that will inform our position. Lastly, Chairperson, appointments of staff, etc., cannot be just nowhere to be found, the record of such. So my request to you would be that we also engage legal counsel on the next step as far as this is concerned. The Powers and Privileges Act is very clear. Those responsible to stifle parliamentary proceedings by not heeding to the call for submission of documents, they can face criminal charges, and I would suggest that we take the next step and we consult our legal counsel on the matter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Khoza, then Mokoena. Everybody will have the turn. Everybody. I've noted everybody. Yeah. Khoza and then Mokoena will all come to.
Chair, thank you very much. First of all, Chair, I want to align myself with Honorable Mahlangu, that probably we need to have an in-committee meeting briefly to really map our way forward. And secondly, Chair, I think I do want to align myself with the other previous speakers. The challenge that we have in South Africa is that we have the personification of state institutions. And this personification of state institutions is not just something that is just about SABC, but it's something that is permeating throughout, and at some point, this state of affairs has got to be brought to a halt. And Chair, let me remind you, I don't think that sometimes we forget that Chapter 10, Section 195 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa applies to public enterprises, and it provides for accountability. Now, if this is an inquisitorial inquiry, how are we going to arrive at some kind of a conclusion if all these documents are not going to be provided to us? It is a serious concern, and I do think that we need to engage with our legal as a matter of urgency, and I do want to appeal to our guests who are supposed to be making the presentations to just, give us just a bit of time together so that we can deliberate on this and map our way forward. Because I do think that They also need to listen to us as a client. They also need to listen to us as the representatives of the shareholders, the public. This is the public entity. We are shareholders by virtue of being elected into this parliament. We are. And we have the authority to drive the processes of parliament because we are mandated to do so. And Chairperson, I'm not going to take much of your time. I'm just begging your indulgence, Chairperson, if we could meet in committee, discuss this and map our way forward so that we can also have an opportunity to brief our own legal counsel.
Thank you very much, Honorable Khosa. Honorable Mokoena, and then followed by Kubisa, and then Loliwe. Mokoena, Honorable Mokoena.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks for correcting Hlongwane to Mokoena. Look, there's an urgent matter at hand of a parastatal that is non-functional, that delivers essential service to our people. And that body is not working because we have this farce here happening. And for that reason, I would have suggested, it's just that I'm not a lawyer, so I can't find legal reasons, but I would have suggested that we continue with the work that we're doing because we don't have a court order with us. But that's not a call that I can make. But the premise of this entire inquiry was on the previous engagements that we've had with the board, and a decision had almost been made that we should dismiss the board because it is non-functional. But an intervention was then made by the Broadcast Act, which said that there should be an inquiry as a prerequisite to such a dismissal of the board. We cannot hold this inquiry because of these flimsy interventions and legal actions by Mr. Maguve, and I would say Mr. Maguve in his personal capacity, because there is no SABC to have made a decision like that. There's no board that he could have consulted. So we're dealing with an individual here who is standing in the way of processes in order for us to continue the work that we're supposed to do, which is to keep the SABC running. And for that reason, Chair, Mr. Maguve must be held personally responsible for having delayed this inquiry. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I would have then made a decision that Mr. Maguve must then explain to the board why he should not be dismissed in his personal capacity. Because he alone, not the SABC, he alone is standing in the way of processes of parliament. I would strongly suggest that this parliament then asks Mr. Maguve in his personal capacity to write to us and explain why he should not be dismissed. That is one. Two, it is absolutely rebellious of Mr. Maguve in his personal capacity that he should refuse outright to give us public documents that belong to a body that belongs to the public. It is absolutely rebellious. And for that reason, again, I would ask this parliament, this committee, to then ask Mr. Maguve in his personal capacity to explain why he should not be dismissed. Thank you. I'll leave it there.
Thank you very much. Honorable Loliwe, followed by Kubisa, followed by Waters, and then followed by Chauke.
Thanks, Chair. Chair, I think the initial proposal of us having an in-committee meeting is essential so that we tease out some areas, especially that As we proceed, we are continuing to mention people by names, which may also warrant us to take a particular approach. So I want to appeal to you, Chair. Can you provide that space? Thanks.
Noted. Honorable Kubisa.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Can I just again remind members that let's not jeopardize by reckless statements and so on. Let us not jeopardize. As much as the urge is there, I'm appealing to all members. Prof. Kubisa.
Thanks, Chairperson. I want to first and foremost concur with Honorable Mahlangu and other members that we need to have this held in camera, in committee. And of course, Chair, also want to concur with you to have this decision you have taken ratified. But having said that, one must take into cognizance that SABC is a public broadcaster, and it works within the confines of the charter and also the legislation, broadcasting legislation. Pieces of legislation that govern the working of the SABC. So therefore, one believes that it is in the public interest and all of us to ensure that there is sanity within SABC. It is prudent that at the end of the day, we must delve into the truth of what is going on and having things ratified. We also take into cognizance that we have got a constitution with a fundamental Bill of Rights which protects all of us. But then we believe that Parliament has got a duty to exercise oversight. Parliament appoints the board, and therefore one believes that actions of parliaments cannot be stalled by anything. I hope that Professor Maguve will assist us all to ensure that we get into the truth. Because from all that has been tabled here, it becomes crystal clear that it's not the SABC, but the Prof in his personal capacity. Having said that, Chair, I believe that everyone, all and sundry, will appreciate to see that there is order within SABC, and our duty is to do that. I therefore bind myself to the idea that we need to be in committee, Chairperson. Thank you.
Ngiyabonga Baba. Could we have Honorable Waters and then Chauke, and then we'll take a decision.
Chair, thank you. I'll be as brief as possible. Chair, with regards to the legal opinion we received, if you look at paragraph 17, the second sentence, for me, says it all. It says there is no court order prohibiting the inquiry from proceeding. So we must proceed today. As all the people are here, they've flown in from Johannesburg, mainly or Gauteng, and so I think we've got to go ahead. As far as the appeal is concerned, the questions and a few of the members have raised it. The fact is, on what basis is Mr. Maguve appealing? Is it via the board or in an individual capacity? Now, as a lone member of the board, there's no way that a board can be quorate at all and cannot make any legal decisions with a one-member board. So therefore, we've got to assume, unless otherwise proven otherwise, that it's in Mr. Maguve's personal capacity that he is appealing. And just by the way, the 11th respondent's surname is spelt wrong before you lodge your papers. My surname's Waters, not Walters, so it's like Manzi. Yeah. So if you could please rectify that. Then, Chair, given the complete collapse of the board and the fact that it only has one executive member and it cannot fulfill its duties in accordance with 1311 of the Broadcasting Act, that alone allows us authority to dissolve the board in terms of 15A1D of the Broadcasting Act, and I think we've got to do that. Because failure to do so will allow Mr. Maguve to use his position to frustrate this process going forward. And I think we owe it to South Africa and to the SABC that we dissolve the board as soon as we possibly can. And we have the authority to do that under the Broadcasting Act, and we should do that. As far as the documents not being handed over, I'm not going to go through each document, but the fact is it's unheard of. I haven't been in Parliament as long as some other members. I've only been here 17 and a half years. But the fact of the matter is never, ever has any institution refused to hand over documents to Parliament when they've been subpoenaed to do so. And to add insult to injury, this is a public broadcaster. This is, we oversee the SABC board, and they are refusing to hand over documents to us. And I think, Chair, we need to take every possible legal route in order to get those documents, because failure to do so again will set a very bad precedent going forward, where other institutions or organizations will just simply refuse to hand over documents to Parliament when we subpoena them. Thank you.
The very last speaker, Honourable Chauke.
Thank you very much, Chair. Let me firstly appreciate the work that you have done, Chair, to brief the committee of the processes that are unfolding. I think we need to agree, Chair, that there is compliant slowly that is coming. What we need to do, Chair, is that let us continue with the engagement on the document side. Let us not stop here. Let us continue to engage those who are in position of document. I think how we have expressed ourselves this morning confirms the agency of why we must have these documents and all of that. And I think if they're here, if they're not here, they'll have listened that it's important that they must be compliant. The second issue of yours, Chair, is that the legal issue, we're not going to go public now as we are doing, and especially going to an extent that we even pronounce ourselves on positions that must not be coming out now. What we need to do, Chair, let's take the point that is raised by Honourable Mahlangu, that we go in camera, we engage together with our legal representation from Parliament, then we come back with a clear way forward, Chair. If we're going to approach this issue with anger, Chair, we'll not be able to achieve what Parliament sent us to do and give a clear report to Parliament, which everybody will be happy when we deliver that report. So my proposal, therefore, Chair, is that let's go in camera, what they call it in-house, where members of the public and those that are here are excused. We engage, because what we are going to be doing will be to deal with our own legal strategy and approach, because the team that is here from SABC, that's why I'm saying that partly you're beginning to see compliant. It means that we need to find each other somewhere. They launch an appeal, at the same time they come to Parliament. So it means that somehow we need to find each other. And I think we're going to find each other by the end of the day. So let's go in camera, Chair, as proposed by members, and let's engage around the approach, and then let's come back and announce the way forward. But the issue of documentation, Chair, as I've said, that those in possession of those documents, please help us bring those documents without court order or without summons. Give us, because those are public documents, give us those documents meantime. Because the outcome of this inquiry, it's only Parliament that is going to pronounce itself, not ourselves now. So that's my take, Chair. I'm being very polite, by the way, Chair. Very, very, very polite, Chair. Because if need be, we can be robust, but there's no need, honestly. When you begin to see the attitude that says, in fact, we are here, but we're not sure of certain things, let's give them benefit of no doubt and engage. And I think that we'll be able to achieve something. So let's go on camera and then let's engage on the issues. When we come back, I think the rest of the stakeholders will know what is the position of the ad hoc committee. We remain firm, we remain principled, guided by the Constitution and the mandate of the legislature. Let us not divert and do something that is not outside our mandate, Chair. That's my appeal. Thank you very much.
I appreciate your politeness, Honourable Chauke. I will address myself to and try and summarize what I think the sense is of members of
the ad hoc committee. But before I do that, let me indicate that the decision to have this first session in the fashion that we had it was deliberate and conscious, in the interest of transparency, in the interest of openness, and in the interest of maintaining the moral high ground as this ad hoc committee and as Parliament. We deliberately did it in this fashion so that everybody understands the sentiments of the elected representatives of Parliament. I will, honourable members, then agree that we go to the room that we used the last time. It is 10 to 10. Before you move, but let us also agree on a time frame, because it can't be open-ended. At some point, we've got to take a decision. We cannot be a debating committee. So I'm going to afford members of this ad hoc committee no later than 11:30 to have come up with some way forward, at which point we will return to this podium and to this room and announce to everybody what our decision is. I want to apologize to the AG and his team once again. It's really something that is beyond our control. Apologies. Ikasa, if you are here, apologies, but we do undertake that we will try and make up the time. Please don't disappear until we come back. Also to our colleagues from the SABC, it is going to be in your interest to await our outcome. It's going to be in your interest to await our outcome. So I'm going to adjourn this hearing until 11:30. We shall return and indicate the way forward. Meeting is adjourned until 11:30. Your pardon. 10:30. I beg your pardon. Not 11:30, until 10:30.
Now there you have it, the SABC in Parliament, and of course you heard the chairperson said they'll be back at 10:30. So we'll wait with bated breath to see if they're going to continue today. That's the parliamentary inquiry into the affairs of the SABC, which is right now underway. We'll keep you posted on the developments there, but you have to stay tuned. Do not go away, do not move, do not switch the channel. You're going to miss it right here on the Newsroom. Now, let's continue what you have to say on some of the Facebook page. And in fact, we won't take that now. We'll do it a little bit later. Let's first take a break, and we'll be right back after that.
The Goodman Gallery is celebrating 50 years promoting art from all sectors of life.
Actively involved in social and political life of South Africa, and we really have been. It's been a fascinating place to be and to watch.
Your personal style is synonymous to your signature statement.
Style is unique. It is a representation of you, your personality, the things you like. It speaks on your behalf, and it just represents the kind of person that you are, your uniqueness.
It's hilarious, you know, apart from anything else. It's the satire, the sort of commentary on what we kind of take for granted as we we exist in daily life.
Vote for Wonder Boy with your heart. Vote for Wonder Boy with your heart and run at cinemas nationwide.
For your weekly dose of arts and entertainment news, tune into Trends every Saturday from 12 to 1.
We are one of the 22 high-burden countries, and out of that, we're number 6. following countries like India, China, and with huge population.
Cough, night sweats, weight loss and fever, and cough being the most important of those. So, and especially if the cough lasts for more than 3 weeks, then you really have to worry and get tested for TB.
The motivation is to affect behavior change, particularly with people who cough and who may be carrying the bacterium. So encouraging people to use their elbow.
For more on health, join your host Dr. Selo Motaung every Saturday from 9 to 10 a.m.
Information-hungry viewers stay with SABC News, as issues on the West are different from issues on the East or here in Johannesburg. So it is not surprising that people who follow the news know that there are two things for sure: that anything can happen, and SABC News will tell you when it does. Because we keep the nation fully informed. We are SABC News.
Welcome back. This is the second hour here on Newsroom on the 7th of December, this Wednesday, Jumbo Africa. I'm Elvis Preslin.
And I'm Renee Vest.
Kendo Makamati right here.
We're all here with you until 12 o'clock. You have to stay with us. But we focus today on a very important issue. This year marks the 20th anniversary of the South African Constitution. On May the 8th, the Constitutional Assembly 20 years ago adopted the Constitution, which would be the blueprint of our country. So we're asking a question this morning, Renee.
Yes, we're asking, as we celebrate these 20 years of our Constitution, what are your views?
Let's take a look at some of the comments that the people are coming through. Kendall, that first one there.
Nkeke Mwekazi reckons we have one of the best constitutions in the world, but many people are not aware of their rights and responsibilities. Very important to add rights and responsibilities.
Very important there. Ayaka says ordinary people are not aware of their constitutional guaranteed rights, that it should be. The government is not doing enough to teach them that. Now that's it's a controversial point, because I asked that question as well to one of the constitutional law experts. Is there enough information out there to teach our people about our constitution?
Yeah.
And well, we need some answers to that. We're also running a poll.
Yes, that's quite right, Elvis. We're asking everyone today. Now, the Transport Minister, Dipuo Peters, is combining all municipal and provincial traffic law enforcement. So we're asking all law enforcement agencies to be united in one organization.
What's your thoughts on that? Well, Kendall, 48% are saying yes, they should be combined. 52% interesting.
Bit of a swing into the naysayers. A little earlier, I think it was more people saying yes by 1 or 2%. Now 52% saying no. They don't want all law enforcement agencies combined into one. I wonder why.
I wonder why, because I mean, if you can imagine that you have one color police officer, police uniform for all police officers, that would make sense, and even traffic officers. You know, it costs you less.
Yes, it
but
would.
Here's some comments as well.
Siafana says, no, no, no. Why do that? Okay, not interested.
Rangwane says, no, then they can be as corrupt as they want and protect each other. Hell no.
So they want to be identified. These people want them to be identified in different regions, different areas, so they can know who they are. But that's what we have for you for now. Keep them coming. We'll read them as we continue. Let's first take a look at your news headlines. The SABC board chairperson has filed papers appealing the Western Cape High Court ruling against his application to remove certain MPs from the committee that is probing the fitness of the SABC board to hold office. We'll go there live at 10:30 back in Parliament.
33-year-old Everett Chauke, who was swept away during the flash floods in Alexandra last month, will be laid to rest this morning.
And Ghana holds presidential and parliamentary elections in what is expected to be a close race. Now, those are all your headlines, but before we get to the news with Renee, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front. Very good morning.
Good morning, and welcome to Renee in this 10 o'clock hour. Quite a lot happening in the world of sports. We had Chadwick on the pool doing what he does best, which is to win. But we also had quite a lot happening on the football field as well. Good morning to you. This is what we've got for you in the sports today. Arsenal are in scintillating form as they top their Champions League group for the first time in over a decade, courtesy of a Lucas Perez hat-trick.
Here is Lucas Perez, and it's a Champions League hat-trick.
And tennis world number 2 Novak Djokovic has split with his coach Boris Becker after a bumper 3 years and 6 Grand Slam wins.
Binder going defensive, Bastianini's on the inside. They're almost going to touch, but it doesn't quite happen. Binder's going to do it again across the line, and Brad Binder wins another one.
South African Brad Binder relives a phenomenal 2016 after capturing his maiden Moto3 GP World Championship.
Take immediately, because you can
give
it back to back.
The police want to sports at around 10:40 or so, but we'll see how that goes. For now, I do know that Renee has got the news for you.
Yes, thank you, Kendall. Parliament's ad hoc committee says lawyers have advised that they consider postponing the start of the SABC board inquiry. Now, Chairperson Vincent Smith told MPs that they've learned that the remaining board member, Mbulaheni Magube, has filed papers appealing to the Western Cape High Court ruling against his application to remove certain MPs from the committee. And we will go back there to that committee meeting at 10:30 to see what that decision is. But moving on, 3-year-old Everett Chauke is currently being laid to rest in Alexandra. Chauke was swept away during flash floods in Alexandra, north of Johannesburg, last month. Now, the body of Everett Chauke was identified last week after being positively identified through DNA testing. NGO Gift of the Givers and a kind-hearted benefactor came forward to assist Chauke's parents with the cost of the funeral. The funeral began this morning at around 8 o'clock in Green Village, where this incident happened. Now, former Northern Cape ANC chairperson John Block and Trifecta director Christo Scholz are expected to apply for leave to appeal in the High Court in Kimberley today. Now, judge yesterday sentenced both men to an effective 15 years imprisonment following their conviction last year. Now, the court found that Block and Scholz had a corrupt relationship, with Block using his political muscle to secure government lease agreements on behalf of Trifecta companies at inflated prices. Now, they were sentenced to 15 years for corruption and another 12 for money laundering. Now, the sentences will run concurrently, and their bail is expected. Their bail has been extended.
After more than 4 years, finality. Block and Scholz sentenced to 15 years for corruption and another 12 for money laundering. The sentences will run concurrently.
In most cases, we always struggle with some of the cases, considering that people will bring application after application. But even after this one, we had so many applications that were brought, so many postponements. But eventually, we got what we are looking for. We hope that this sends a strong message to all those people who are on a mission to defraud our state, that as NPA and other law enforcement agencies, we're going to fight vigorously to see that we bring to an end to these corrupt activities.
The case has been characterized by various delays, and this morning Block sought to bring another application, alleging improper conduct and bias by Judge Botswane. In an affidavit read out in court, Block alleged that the judge was overheard in a telephone conversation discussing the case with another judge. Block's lawyers also lodged a complaint with the Judicial Services Commission and wanted the case to be postponed until that matter was concluded. But Judge Botswane denied the application. In sentencing, she also ordered the confiscation of 2 million rand from Block's assets, 6 million rand from Scholz's assets, as well as 53 million rand from the assets of the Trifecta group of companies. The Trifecta companies received fines ranging from 75,000 to 150,000 rand. Block and Scholz's appeal application will be heard on Wednesday. Ulrich Hendricks, SABC News, Kimberley High Court.
Meanwhile, opposition parties have welcomed the sentencing of John Block. The DA, EFF and COPE in the Northern Cape says the court ruling sends a clear message that corruption can never be tolerated.
It's rather sad that it had to come to this point at the same time, in that John Block was really a promising politician, but unfortunately, as it is, he succumbed to the temptations of power and of bling and of all the ills that we see in our public service today.
It's a clear indication of fraud and corruption. Does not have a place to stay, especially in Northern Cape. One should take this into cognizance that Block himself was an MEC for finance. So he strategically positioned himself knowing that what is his intentions.
It is very unfortunate though, because we must never lose track of the fact that John is a leader in a community, he is a father, he is a husband, and equally to that, it's not something that any person can rejoice when somebody is going to prison. However, the one thing that we must divorce from the reality is that when somebody has actually transgressed, more especially when you are in the public face, and we as political leaders, because everyone is a leader within their own right. We must make sure that we are holding one another accountable.
The Health and Justice Ministries have welcomed the Supreme Court of Appeal's decision to overturn a ruling that granted terminally ill patients the right to die. The appeal followed last year's groundbreaking ruling in which the High Court in Pretoria gave 65-year-old Cape Town advocate Robin Stransom Ford permission to be assisted in ending his life by a medical doctor. Stransom Ford, who suffered from advanced prostate cancer, passed away before he could hear the court ruling. Now, the Department of Justice and Health challenged the judgment on the grounds that it had far-reaching implications and could be abused in the absence of the legitimate framework. Now, the Justice spokesperson, Advocate Mthunzi Maga, said they were relieved that the order was set aside.
We are relieved that the judgment of the Court of First Instance was set aside, given Minister of Justice and Minister of Health's concern that the judgment itself had far-reaching implications insofar as the constitutionally entrenched right to life, which is sacrosanct, and the powers of the National Prosecuting Authority to prefer charges of murder and culpable homicide against any doctor who would help or assist a patient to die. And remember that ethically, doctors took an oath of office to preserve and save lives, but not to end them. And moving forward, we are looking forward to ventilating the matter in the final arbiter on constitutional matters, which is the Constitutional Court, as they indicated that they might take this on appeal at the Concord.
It is that time of the year again when Stokvels buy their end-of-year groceries in bulk. Now, this can be a very stressful time for Stokvel members, as there are a number of factors to deal with, such as securing their hard-earned collections and cash. For more on this and how to keep safe during the Stokvel season, we are now joined by Busi Skenyana, the CEO of Stokvel Academy. Very good morning to you, Busi, and welcome. You're also the CEO of BSK Marketing.
Yes, good morning, Alvis.
First and foremost, tell us, what are some of the challenges that Stokvels face this time of the year, especially at the end of the year?
The main challenge that they face is the safety of the cash. There's different ways how they handle this cash. Some of them, as we know, they put money in the bank, but they have to go and withdraw that money to either share or go and buy groceries. Some of them, yes, they have to distribute this money amongst themselves for whatever reason, goal that they've set for themselves. So crime, it's quite rife this time of the year. And
so how can Stokvels make this particular season more manageable? Because it seems like it is quite a lot of money to take home and really share it with your members and to be safe at the same time.
Stokvels need to start honestly doing things differently. You know, they've been doing the same thing over a number of years, and the same problems, you know, sort of surface. So they have to start looking at how can they handle the cash safer, you know, for example, from point A to point B. They need to start to have a serious conversation with the banks, you know. I know some of them are not aware of the basic, you know, processes of moving money from one person to the other, but they need to start engaging with the banks. But they also need to look into safety amongst themselves, because part of the crime happens internally.
What are some of the horror stories that you've heard?
Gee, the horror stories, I mean, it's for people losing cash, 300,000 rands cash, and it's mind-boggling. First and foremost, why did you have that cash, that amount of money, you know? Yes. So that's one of the horror crashes. And of course, the latest now when it comes to buying groceries, the trucks get hijacked from the wholesaler to where they're going to distribute the groceries. So it's quite worrying.
We also believe there's collusion between bank employees and some robbers outside.
Yeah, we've picked that up. Actually, one of our magazines that we published, the Stokvel Voice, we went out there and searched out what is happening. And indeed, we discovered that there is, in somewhere in KZN, one of the bank employees colluded with the criminals. Yeah.
So, your advice then, let's go back to that advice and the tips that Stokvel members should take to heart that they should not do this Christmas. You mentioned that they shouldn't draw large amounts of cash.
Definitely, they shouldn't draw large amounts of cash. and they should try and spread cash distribution.
Yes.
They don't really have to share everything this time of the year. For that matter, they could even do it in Jan when it's all quiet and they probably need the money the most.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And they must also start looking into, as I'm saying, forming much more solid relationships with the banks in terms of guiding them how to actually handle their cash in a safer and more efficient way.
Now, your magazine that you bring out every quarter, Stokvel Voice, speak to societies and your achievements that you've reviewed, as well as keep your cash and yourself safe. Tell us a little bit about that. Is that exactly what we're talking about?
Definitely, this is exactly what we're talking about. This time of the year, we're indeed focusing on such issues as handling cash safely, but also goals. What goals did you set yourself? Because if you had set yourself a goal that you want to save 300 rands to achieve a certain goal, but you become negligent about that, so that is self-defeating on its own. So we're focusing on different seasonal aspects that affect stokvels, because remember, stokvels are alive throughout the year.
Yes.
It's not only this time of the year that we should be talking or engaging with stokvels.
So where do they get this particular magazine? Because it's got a wealth of information in here, specifically for the Stokvel members.
We've got a network of stokvels that we engage with throughout the year. We make sure that those stokvels that we engage with, they get copies on a regular basis. We also have some key strategic distribution points where stokvels converge, like some of the shopping centers.
Yes. Now, if people talk about the Stokvel industry, they don't realize how big this industry is. Tell us, how big is this industry?
This industry is estimated, as you know, to be worth about 44 billion rands, which circulates per annum. And in terms of people who participate in this community, I call it a community, there's about 11 million people who belong to stokvels. And there's approximately 800,000 stokvel groups throughout South Africa. So it's quite a huge industry.
Why is it so important for our communities?
One, I think the basic principle is saving, saving, saving.
Yes.
That's quite key. But for me, it's also it's one of the mechanisms to create wealth for this community. And as you can see there, our payoff line is about wealth and wisdom.
Yes.
So we need to actually start questioning and say, what is that 44 billion rands doing for the Stokvel community? So it's about wealth creating, it's about job creation, you know, all those key components that make the economy tick.
Now, economists have warned that South African consumers will face a very difficult year, but Stokvels doesn't seem to stop, and they continue to be financially beneficial to their members.
Definitely. I mean, one thing there's that inbuilt discipline among Stokvel members to save, no matter how tough things may be. You know, you still have to save X amount. But my concern is that stokvels must also take a long-term view. But it's pointless to save, you know, for a 12-month cycle. So we need to now start talking about stokvels and investments, as opposed to just saving for, you know, year in, year out. You know, take a long-term view.
Busi, and finally, your Christmas message to all Stokvel members out there.
Wishing you the best festive season this year, and the best 2017. May your stokvels grow and be wiser and create wealth for yourselves.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us here in studio. That was Busi Skenyana. She is from the Stokvel Academy, the magazine that you've just seen, as well as the CEO of BSK Marketing.
Yes, let's continue that discussion on how to look after our finances and savings this month during festive season. Now, Alvis has a little bit more for you on that.
Well, thank you, Renee. Now, you know, they normally say it is the season to be happy and gay and enjoy the festive season, but as you've seen there in the insert in the magazine that Busi has got, it's also the season to be robbed. But
yes.
There's a gentleman, Colin Ledwaba. He's the CEO and founder of Kaliba Forex Trading Academy. He'll be hosting a Forex Trade and Investment Seminar in KwaMhlanga in Mpumalanga this coming Saturday. Now, over the past 4 years, 20,000 people attended his seminars, including business owners, Stokvel members, as well as entrepreneurs, where they were taught ways to maximize their profits in their different financial institutions from all corners of the country. Now, for more on the Forex trading topic and seminar, in our Pretoria studios, we are joined by Mr. Colin Ledwaba. Mr. Ledwaba, very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Now, it sounds like a wonderful idea, but first explain to us, what is Forex trading all about?
Okay, basically the term Forex is an abbreviation for the word foreign exchange. What we do is it's a liquid market whereby we're buying and selling currencies.
What sort of currencies? Are you talking global currencies, the UK dollar, the pound, the US dollar as well? The US dollar, did I say UK dollar? The US pound, the UK pound and the US dollar and Japanese yen and so forth?
Okay, a very good question, Elvis. Okay, what's happening is we have to predict which currency will be stronger than the other one, which country's economy will be weaker, so that we know when to buy the other one and sell the other currency. Hence, you always see on all the times when you look at the market, the currencies are being stated in pairs, like the euro against the US dollar.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've been doing this now for the past 4 years, or is it longer than that?
Yes, it is longer than that. I've started Forex trading in 2009. That was the first time when I was introduced to Forex. And till today, yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, how much should one invest into Forex trading if you want to become an investor?
Okay, basically, to be honest with you, Forex trading, like I said, it is not a place for widows and orphans, not literally. But what I'm about to tell you is that, and I want to advise each and every individual out there, that when you come into the Forex market, you need first to learn how to trade the market. You need first to learn all the right strategies on how to trade and how to be profitable in the market. There are so many people who are going out there thinking that Forex trading is a get-rich-quick scheme, of which it's not. I'm telling you, good people, Forex trading is not a get-rich-quick scheme. It needs guts, it needs determination, you have to be committed, you have to give it your all for you to be successful. When it comes to the amount of money that you want to invest, it totally depends on a person. As we all know that in Forex, we are dealing with US dollars, and mostly that we are in South Africa, we are not trading with rands, but with dollars. So the starting amount for each and every individual, it depends on different brokers, of which brokers is the middleman between the traders and the market.
Mm-hmm. And you, that broker?
No. We are a Forex trading academy. Mm-hmm. What we do in the academy, we teach people how to trade. We teach people how to minimize their losses in the Forex trading industry. We teach them also the right strategies to trade in the Forex industry. We manage Forex trading accounts for individuals, stokvel members, and corporates, even businessmen.
Mm-hmm. Talking about stokvel members, we heard there from Busi Skanyana, it's a 44 billion rand industry. Are you targeting them specifically to teach them how to work with their money and to invest their money?
Honestly, I would love to work with them because of basically there are some of them that we are currently working with. But right now, people like Busi and all the stokvel members, what we would like to give them advice is that they should make their money grow for them, because of basically in stokvels is that it's popping out money each and every month and waiting for a very long period for your money to grow. Whereas in Forex trading, when they're doing that with us, immediately when they're doing that, they are like putting their money, investing us, we trading their accounts on their behalf on daily basis. Remember, Forex is a 24-hour market, 5 days a week.
So you can get returns on a daily basis, for that matter.
Yes. Let me quickly explain this to you, Elvis. What we do, like when we talk about a Forex account management, in Caliber Forex Trading Academy, when we manage somebody else's account, an individual business owners or stokvel members, what we do, we open live trading accounts on their behalf, whereby all the members of the stokvels or even an individual or even a businessman will be able to monitor the progress of their account. I'm not saying that there are not losses in the Forex industry. Trust me, there are losses in the Forex industry. Being in the industry for so long, with the experience that I have, that's why I learned how to minimize the risk involved in the losses in the Forex industry.
Mm-hmm. So some of the clients that you have currently, have they made lots of money from their own trading accounts or not?
So far, so good. With the results that we have in our academy, we are very proud with all the clients that we had. I'm not going to say to you that we haven't lost money in the forex industry. Yes, we have lost money in the industry, but yes, we have made a lot of money also in the forex industry. The thing is, you need to know the right strategies, how to buy, the right strategies when to sell. Then most people, they just jump into the forex market with that aim that, you know what, by 6 months' time, I'm going to be rich. What I say is that come to us and let the professionals trade for you while we teach you how to trade the market professionally.
All right, now you are in Komshlanga. Is this area responding well to your seminars, or is there a specific reason why you're doing it there?
Based on the response, so far the response is awesome. We're even thinking that, you know what, the venue is quite too small because of like, we're getting calls every day, emails every day, people are making their bookings. And the reason why we went to KwaMhlanga in Mpumalanga, you know, to be honest, the rural areas are the areas whereby most people, like most forex traders or forex trading institutions, they never go to those kind of places. They will always go to Pretoria, Sandton, and all those major cities. But what about those little people out there? Who's giving them that information? They need that kind of information. The youth there, they need that kind of information. They need to be empowered also.
So, if people want more information, where can they get it?
If they want any other information, they can call 063 186 3721. I repeat, at 063 186 3721, or visit our website, which is www.caliberforextrading.com. www.caliberforextrading.com, or send us an email and then we'll give you all the relevant information regarding forex at info@caliberforextrading.com.
And when is the next seminar again? When is it?
Right now we haven't planned another seminar, as we want to deal first with KwaMhlanga so that we can give it our all and show the people that we want to give them the best forex trading education that there is in the country.
Colin, thank you so much for joining us and teaching us a little bit about forex trading.
Thank you very much for having me.
That was Mr. Colin Ledwaba. He's the CEO and founder of Caliber Forex Trading Academy. You can learn a little bit more about forex trading on his website. He's got the website there, caliberforextrading.com. Go and visit them and see what they got to offer. Well, we're going to go now to Renee to take a look at what's happening in social media.
Yes, Elvis, lots been happening this morning, but we've been asking a poll question today. Now, the Minister of Transport, Dipuo Peters, has planned combining all the municipal and provincial traffic law enforcement agencies into one organisation. Now, we want to know what you think about that, so let's take a look at that poll. Well, it seems we don't have that poll at this point in time. Let's move on to what's taking place in the courts today. Now we start in KwaZulu-Natal, where hitman Nduduzi Zikhali, hired to kill his former colleague Skumbuzo Dumisa, is expected to return to the Ishowe Regional Court, facing attempted murder and conspiracy to commit crime. Last month, Zikhali testified that he was hired by his boss, Trevor Melis, to kill Dumisa. Then in Durban, the High Court is expected to hand down judgment against 2 police officers arrested in connection with a murder of a colleague and burying him in a shallow grave at Mkomazi on the KwaZulu-Natal south coast. And moving to the Western Cape, a suspect is expected to appear in court today on charges of abduction and murder of a woman in Driftsons near Khayelitsha. Now, this 24-year-old man who was arrested on Monday is to appear in the Bluestones Magistrate Court. 22-year-old Noluvo Swelindawo's body was found with a gunshot wound near the footbridge at the weekend. Now, her family believes she was killed because of her lesbian lifestyle. We will be keeping you up to date on these court cases as they develop. But it's time now to take a break. We'll be right back.
Water-wise, water is an essential need. The scarcity of it could lead to loss of many lives, including livestock, plants, and much more. It requires us to use it sparingly and responsibly in times of need, failing which our taps and sanitation will not function. For more on water and weather issues, stay tuned to News Today, every Friday at 4:45 Central African Time. SABC News, making you water-wise.
Africans are coming up with innovative tech solutions to solve their challenges.
We developed mobile apps that gamify the learning.
On Network, we have information about Africa's technology and social media landscape.
First rate, I think there was less than maybe 2,000 visitors, and now this year we're expecting around 35,000 visitors.
We also tell you about apps celebrities are using.
My favorite piece of technology right now, I would say it's M-Pesa.
That's Network with Ms. Pumelele Zondi every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time.
It's that time of the year where we must see many consumers splurging. Now, many even take out debt in order to be able to afford the luxuries of the festive season. But come January, they are queuing up for personal loans. Now, some because they are declined credit and go to unregister microlenders with the risk of high interest and questionable collection methods. Now, the Credit Ombuds advises consumers to spend wisely this festive season. Yes, we keep hearing that. Now, this is, of course, to avoid the January worry blues. Now, for more on this, we spoke to Deputy Ombudsman Rihanna Steyn.
Just, what's happening in our shopping malls. The music's playing. There's all the adverts, lots of specials. I'm sure you've also, I'm receiving SMSs all the time. There's specials.
There's Black Friday coming up.
Black Friday's coming up. And, it's all the Christmas decorations, and there's this atmosphere of spending. And I think some consumers get caught up in that. They never really plan to spend all that much money. But once they're into that shopping mall, and especially with kids, they end up spending more than they should.
Now, in my introduction, I know I mentioned that people, would normally even go out and borrow money from micro-lenders, and some of them end up at unregistered lenders. What do you make of that, and what sort of advice would you give people in that regard?
Well, I think to take out credit just to fund your Christmas spending is really not a clever thing. How are you going to pay that back? If you don't have the money at the moment to spend, why take out debt? So I think what happens is that some people, they can't, extend the credit limits on their credit cards, and they still want to spend. So that's why they then go to the unregistered lenders who are not conforming to the required practices, to do affordability assessments, to stick to the legal practices, but now they're getting the money. But I think the warning is, what are those people going to do when it comes to collection time?
Yes.
How much are they going to charge? Are they going to stick to the legal interest rates? So it's really a concern.
Now, have you seen the debt levels becoming a bit of a concern, and people are overextending themselves lately?
I think people are. I think people are struggling, and the cost of living is going up. Their salaries are not, sort of matching up. And then you've got this extra time, over Christmas. I hear a lot of consumers say that they feel obligated to buy extra food for family to take home, to buy presents. If they work in the city, they have to take home presents and extra food. And they actually incur debt to do that because there's this expectation. It's happened in previous years. So, yeah, I think people are overextending themselves. And we see it in the debt levels. There are over 10 million consumers, 10 million, whose debts are in arrears. Their credit repayments are in arrears, and that's we see from the Credit Bureau history. So that's not a good picture.
It's a difficult problem. Now, the National Credit Regulator put the brakes on access to credit in September 2014, I think it was. Was it last year, September 14 last year? Has that helped bring down the numbers of people being over-indebted, or it didn't really make a dent into those numbers?
Well, we see from the results from the retailers that they say that their sales and profits are down. So they definitely, they heeded the new regulations, which said you can't give credit unless you do all these things, unless you get 3 pay slips, bank statements. So their credit extension dropped. Whether that's helped the consumers who still went out and bought the stuff, that we don't know, because where did they get the money?
Yes.
And there is a concern, I think, from all quarters that maybe they went to the unregistered lenders.
Now, we're the worst savers in South Africa. We don't save. But how important is it for people to really start saving for something that they want, even if it's a Christmas present?
I think it's absolutely important. We say it all the time. We say budget, we say save. But maybe every time there's 1 or 2 consumers who listen. But they really should do this, because from all accounts, things are going to get worse economically. They're not going to get better. So if you do get a Christmas bonus this year, people should pay off their debt. They should save that money to pay next year's school fees and to fund their living expenses, and not use credit for that, because credit just accumulates. It accumulates costs and interests every month. So it's dangerous.
Yeah. From the Credit Ombuds's perspective, how could you assist consumers?
Well, remember, we assist consumers free of charge. We've got a whole office full of lawyers to assist consumers who've got problems with their credit agreements, legal problems. They've got a dispute. They feel that they're being overcharged. They can't get agreements. They can't get statements of account. They've already got those documents, but they disagree with what's happening. And they just don't seem to get the answers. Some just need legal advice on the interpretation of their own contracts that they signed some time ago, because they never read them. So any of those kinds of issues, we assist consumers with credit issues, credit bureau issues, the typical blacklisting. I don't want to use that word because it's a misnomer, but if consumers are listed on the bureaus, and that causes problems for them. They can't get credit, and they feel it's unfair, it's not correct. They don't know where to go. They can come to our office. Any credit issues, not with the banks, because we've got our banking ombudsman for the banks, but we've got a lot of micro lenders, retailers, furniture, clothing. Those complaints come to our office, and then we assist the consumers like you would as a lawyer.
Yeah. What about mobile contracts? There's a lot of problems with those.
The mobile contracts are not credit agreements. So unfortunately, they do not fall under our auspices unless the consumer is listed by the mobile cellular provider.
I see.
Because if they feel they listed unfairly, incorrectly, they've paid the account, now they list it, then we'll take that problem, because we deal with all the complaints about listings on the Bureau.
Finally, advice?
Please do not spend your bonus just on luxuries unnecessarily. And I mean, I'm not saying you don't deserve to spoil yourself and your family a little bit, but just save some money, pay off some debt. Just make things easier for the year ahead.
Well, there you have it. Save some money. Don't spend it all. But right now, very important issue happening in Parliament now. Parliament's ad hoc committee says lawyers have advised that they consider postponing the start of the SABC board inquiry. Let's go to Parliament Live to find out what's going to happen next.
November. So that's not negotiable. We want those documents, and the legal team, as I speak, will take whatever steps are necessary to do that. The second decision that we took in that meeting is that after listening to the legal team and looking at the legal advice that we received from senior counsel, we go back to the point that we made when we started, that Parliament will not be deterred from doing its oversight. As things stand, we are of the view that there is no legal grounds, or there is no court order as we speak that prevents this committee from continuing its work, and so shall it be. We will continue today. The third point that we made, and I raised it with the committee because it was raised with me to the legal team, you did indicate the challenges that we might face after I explained to you how the proceedings are going to work. in terms of the real challenges that the professor might face because documents are not in Braille, this committee has not prepared any documents in Braille, but more importantly, the work that we're going to do today, the Auditor General's report, the Public Protector's report, and ICASA's report, are documents that the Accounting Authority should have gone through by now, anyway. So there is no ways that the lack of Braille could be an impediment, because those are documents that the Accounting Authority should have looked at the time. But because we understand and accept that that is a real challenge, we are now proposing that in terms of the two witnesses that would have come after ICASA, that is Board Member Lubisi and Board Member Mavuso, we are going to request them to allow us to do the Public Protector's report because of trying to catch up time, and that we will try and slot in tomorrow or thereafter. I'm saying that to everybody because we must try as far as possible, all of us, it's not the responsibility of this committee, that we afford everybody an opportunity to participate in terms of how we arrive at a situation where statements are in Braille is something that the professor and his team must look at. From our side, we'll also attempt to look at it. But there is no guarantee that this committee is going to be able to present in Braille, but we will look at it in the interest of fairness. I'm raising that because it was a matter that was raised with me earlier on. And also, just for the sake of preparedness, we took the decision to look at the Auditor General, to look at ICASA, and to look at the Public Protector, because one, those are public documents, and two, those presentations do not need an evidence leader. They should be very safe in terms of all of us having had sight of them at some point, and they should be able to buy us time in terms of the time that is lost. So in absentia to Mr. Lubisi and Mr. Mavuso, we will come back to you and explain why we had to go this route because of this unintended circumstances. Having said that, honorable members, I am now once again, having reported back to you, adjourned until 11 o'clock. At 11 o'clock, Auditor General, you will do your presentation. When done, it will be followed immediately by the ICASA, and immediately thereafter, which probably will be after lunch, we'll have the engagement with the Public Protector. Are we clear, honorable members? Is there clarity on the proceedings for today? Thank you very much. We will resume at 11 o'clock.
The Portfolio Committee will adjourn up until 11 o'clock. They'll be back. You don't want to miss this. You want to stay in your seat. You heard it from the chairman there. The documents will be supplied to the ad hoc committee in November. Plus, Parliament will not be deterred, and they will continue today with their deliberations. So you have to stay tuned. We'll be back right after this.
This is SABC News Prime Time, live from Johannesburg. Police have made a massive drugs bust in Khayelitsha on the Cape Flat. They seized Mandrax tablets worth 26 million rand. The 529,000 Mandrax tablets seized were hidden in an underground storage facility. A scavenging insect which has destroyed tomato fields abroad has been spotted locally. Several organisations are working together to fend off this potential catastrophe. In 2008, it jumped the Mediterranean from Spain and caused havoc in 15 African countries.
Give me that paperwork. Give me that paperwork.
Where is your paperwork?
I don't know what's going on. Sorry, I'm locked up.
This is not fair. Not fair.
Kuputse rent ka 200. Have to kupula ka 200. Uri ngwana, o i1. 150 plus. Koloi leon. Let me in another one 150.
I'm just the one to lock you out.
Yes, you just want to lock me then out.
You are starting gangsterism.
No.
It was bound to be an interesting debate with Donald and Hillary, him not even having bothered to prepare. So he was flying on instinct. And it didn't come across quite well. I'm starting a hashtag, medical fees must fall. There are many students who are protesting who are not necessarily violent. The students are saying the issue is how to implement, whereas the Commission's mandate is to look at
feasibility. Yeah. Among these countries, only South Africa allows same-sex marriages. Very concerning indeed, Prof.
Your sexual orientation does not demean your own humanity, doesn't make you less of a human being. That really is the essence.
Good morning, welcome back. I'm Kendall Makhamati. Time for a little bit of sports before we carry on with the rest of the day's proceedings. South African swimming star Chad le Clos clinched his first gold medal at this year's Short Course World Championship in Windsor, Canada. Le Clos won the 200 meters butterfly to successfully defend the title he'd won at the event in Doha 2 years ago.
Le Clos took the lead early on. After a good dive, he took charge of the race and seemed on course to set another new world record. But with 2 laps to go, American Tom Shields and Japan's Daya C2 turned on the heat. Shields took the lead, with C2 hot on his heels. Le Clos dropped back to 3rd place. But as usual, the South African kept his best for last. He kept his composure and stuck to his race plan to bag the gold in 1 minute 48.76 seconds, just 0.2 of a second slower than the world record he set in Singapore 3 years ago. Shields settles for silver and Sito the bronze.
What a swim it was, what a last 25 by Le Clos.
Big ups to Tom. Yeah, you know, he's a great friend of mine. Obviously Daya is going to always be a tough competitor, and I knew it was going to be a tough race. It's just a pity he was there and I was here, and it was a bit of a which way do I look, you know what I mean? So, but yeah, like great swim for Tom and Daya.
Meanwhile, another Olympian, Cameron van der Berg, had a disappointing 100-meter breaststroke semi-final. Van der Berg, the world record holder in the event, finished in 5th place in 57.67 seconds, more than a second behind winner Marco Koch of Germany.
Very unfortunate. That just shows that you really have to leave everything in the tank for the semi-finals.
His time was 9th fastest overall. He missed out on the final, but was placed on the reserve list. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
And of course, also topping our stories for this morning is the UEFA Champions League, where the group stages conclude tonight. Last night, a total of 25 goals were scored in 8 matches across Europe. Arsenal, Manchester City, PSG, Benfica, Napoli, Atletico Madrid, Bayern Munich and Barcelona are all through to the next round of the competition.
To Messi.
So much for a dead rubber. Ada Turan unexpectedly stole the show from a record-chasing Lionel Messi as Barcelona produced a professional display. The Catalan side dredged Borussia Mönchengladbach 4-0 thanks to Turan's hat-trick.
Paco Alcácer, here's Turan for the hat-trick! Yes! A night to remember for Ada Turan.
Barca finished their group stage with 15 points from 6 matches. Lucas Perez opened Arsenal's account early in the first half.
Perez, surely!
8 minutes later, the Spanish striker announced his arrival in spectacular fashion as he completed his brace. He went on to mark his first Champions League start with a hat-trick.
Lucas Perez, and it's a Champions League hat-trick for Lucas Perez.
And Alex Iwobi scored his first goal of the season with a simple tap-in as Arsenal brushed aside Basel 4-1 to climb above Paris Saint-Germain.
It is Lewandowski. It is fantastic.
Robert Lewandowski's spectacular free kick gave Bayern Munich 1-0 win over Atletico Madrid. The loss in Germany ended Atletico's hope of winning all 6 group matches and stretched Bayern's record to 15 straight Champions League home victories. But Atletico still won Group D with 15 points, while Bayern finished second with 12. 19-year-old Manchester City player Patrick Roberts, on an 18-month loan to Celtic, gave the Scottish outfit an early lead against his parents' club.
Can you believe it?
Kelechi Iheanacho replied swiftly with an equally impressive finish.
Iheanacho, the perfect response.
It was a frantic contest as both teams pressed for victory until the final whistle. In other results, by holding PSV to a 0-0 draw, newcomers Rostov clinched the 3rd spot and a place in the Europa League. PSG's surprise 2-2 home draw with Ludogorets saw Arsenal leapfrog the French outfit to claim a top spot for the first time since 2011-2012. And Dynamo Kiev beat Besiktas 6-0, knocking them to 3rd, while Napoli grabbed a 2-1 win away to Benfica, with both teams going through. Mduduzi Ndlovu, SABC News.
Now staying with footballing news, CAF Champions League winners Mamelodi Sundowns have arrived in Osaka, Japan for the FIFA Club World Cup, where they'll be pitting their prowess against continental champions from around the globe. The South African side are making their first appearance at the tournament and will also be the first side to represent the country at the global showpiece event. Arriving this morning in the southeastern city of Osaka, where they'll play their first match, they will be enjoying the fact that their first match is against the winner of the playoff fixture between Kashima Antlers and Auckland City on Sunday. The long-haul flight via Hong Kong doubtless taking its toll on their sharpness. They were welcomed by FIFA in a ceremony where Captain Klompo Pushkash Gekana received a plaque recognizing their participation in this esteemed tournament. And that's where we leave it with the sports for this hour. We'll be back at the top of the hour with more news, more analysis, as well as all these really important crossings that we've been busy with the entire morning. For now, though, we have a look at what's happening with the weather across the continent of Africa.
We make sure to be where news is happening,
both locally and globally.
For the latest business news, stay with us.
From South Africa to the world, we've got all your latest sporting news.
Don't miss our weather updates every hour.
Stay tuned to News Today, Monday to Friday, from 3 to 5:30 p.m. here on SABC News.
When cell phones get cut off, people say Mdluli was listening. Who are you?
We have to approach Dennis Breitenbach, who was the prosecutor by then.
The DA parliamentarian?
That's correct. The one who's making halabaloo about me.
There are allegations here that you abused the slush fund. What do you say to that?
We don't have slush fund. I don't know about slush fund.
I respect the fact that you cannot talk a lot about the Secret Service and all that. I guess that's the norm internationally.
Yeah.
But how do we know that you, Richard Mdluli, are not abusing the funds of the state? You are counted amongst the president's men. Are you?
That is rubbish.
Also the matter of General Boysen in KZN. He's not speaking very well of you.
No, that one is talking rubbish.
You are perceived to be very powerful, General, and you know, people who don't agree with you seem to pay the price. What is happening with the Oparamribe case?
No, I'm surprised because, as I've said, I'm a person of people.
It's 1100 hours Central African time on this Wednesday, the 7th of December 2016. This is Newsroom, Jumbo Africa. I'm Elvis Preslin.
And I'm Renee Vest. Of course, we'll be with you until 12 o'clock today. Now, we are broadcasting live from our Auckland Park studios here in Johannesburg.
Let's now go to our headlines, Renee, to find out what is happening there. As we speak, the inquiry into the SABC and its board is already on. Now, this after discussions into whether it should continue amid the SABC board chairperson's appeal against the court ruling.
The 3-year-old Everett Chalke, who was swept away during flash floods in Alexandra last month, has been laid to rest.
And Ghana holds presidential and parliamentary elections in what is expected to be a close race. Let's now find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front.
Well, good morning. Quite a lot happening on the footballing front out in Europe as well as across the continent, but we're going to focus on the UEFA Champions League, where I think a lot of people will be very happy with the news I'll be bringing you this morning. Good morning. This is what we have for you headlining the sports today. Arsenal are in scintillating form as they top their Champions League group for the first time in over a decade, courtesy of a Lucas Perez hat-trick.
But here is Lucas Perez, and it's a Champions League hat-trick.
In tennis world, number 2, Novak Djokovic has split with his coach Boris Becker after a bumper 3 years and 6 Grand Slam wins.
Binder goes defensive, Bastian is up the inside. They're almost going to touch, but it doesn't quite happen. Binder's going to do it again across the line, and Brad Binder wins another one.
And South African Brad Binder relives a phenomenal 2016 after capturing his maiden Moto3 GP World Championship. Let's hope we've got enough time to bring you that chat that he had with Morning Live this morning. But for now, it is back to Renee, who's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Now, Parliament's Portfolio Committee has agreed to continue with the inquiry into the SABC board. This after SABC board chairman Mbulaheni Magube filed an application for leave to appeal the High Court ruling by Judge Desai that refused his appeal to halt the inquiry. Now, ad hoc committee chairperson Vincent Smith says the members agreed there is no court order stopping the inquiry from going ahead. And in other news, a 3-year-old Everett Chalke has been laid to rest this morning at an emotional funeral service in Alexandra, north of Johannesburg. Chalke was swept away during flash floods in Alexandra last month. The body of Everett Chalke was identified last week after being positively identified through DNA testing. NGO, Gift of the Givers, and a kind-hearted benefactor came forward to assist Chalke's parents with the costs of the funeral. Now, the funeral began this morning at around 8 o'clock in Green Village. This was near to where the incident happened. Police will be out in full force this festive season to clamp down on the Christmas period road carnage, and no mercy will be shown to transgressors.
It's accidents like this one that leave scores of South Africans dead every year. Now authorities say enough is enough. They are gathered in Durban today to find, amongst other things, solutions to the carnage. Traffic authorities say law enforcement agencies will show no mercy.
I'm appealing to society, South Africans, stop bribing traffic officers. When you bribe a traffic officer, a licensing official, as well as a vehicle licensing official, you are actually paying to kill people.
Every year, thousands of revelers flock to KwaZulu-Natal during the festive period. The province always records the highest number of fatalities, but they're promising to change that this year.
You will see traffic officers out in numbers trying to ensure the maximum safety of motorists and to ensure that we try our utmost best to reduce crashes and fatalities in this province.
In Limpopo, the province launched its Arrive Alive campaign outside Belapela. Officials inspected vehicles traveling from Pretoria to Polokwane.
We realized that really there are a lot of accidents that are happening around Limpopo, so we are making that awareness, and as part of the festive season we have started now because we are launching this today and then from there we've got a program. We'll be moving around just to monitor how the cars will be going.
Close to 2,000 people died on the Crunches Road during the festive season last year. Sibonga Gongambata, SABC News.
Former Northern Cape ANC chairperson John Block and Trifecta director Christo Scholz are expected to apply for leave to appeal in the High Court in Kimberley today. Now, the judge yesterday sentenced both men to an effective 15 years imprisonment following their conviction last year. Now, the court found that Block and Scholz had a corrupt relationship, with Block using his political muscle to secure government lease agreements on behalf of Trifecta companies at inflated prices. Now, they were sentenced to 15 years for corruption and another 12 for money laundering. The sentences will run concurrently. Their bail has been extended.
After more than 4 years, finality. Block and Scholz sentenced to 15 years for corruption and another 12 for money laundering. The sentences will run concurrently.
In most cases, we always struggle with some of the cases, considering that people will bring application after application. But even after this one, we had so many applications that were brought, so many postponements. But eventually, we got what we are looking for. We hope that this sends a strong message to all those people who are on a mission to defraud our state, that as NPA and other law enforcement agencies, we're going to fight vigorously to see that we bring to an end to these corrupt activities.
The case has been...
As you know, the SABC board inquiry is happening in Parliament. Let's go there live.
A Braille copy in his possession. And the seriousness of this inquiry, that might just jeopardize him, and they'd want to address the committee on that matter. And then I would imagine decide the way forward. Having consulted with the legal team, they indicated that might just be possible and it shouldn't be too much of a problem. But before I do that, and I'm hoping that you would agree, before I do that, the practical reality that we're faced with now is that we all agreed when we left here that we're going to start at 11 o'clock. And this matter gets brought to us as we're about to resume. And having conferred, in fact, I sent somebody out to go and check exactly how long will it take to have documents translated to Braille. I'm waiting for the outcome. However, I want to refer the legal team to my letter dated the 17th of November for notifications of hearings. And if you go to the last page, where we talk to interpretation services, I'd like to read it. The proceedings will be conducted in English. Should you require an interpreter, kindly submit a request via the committee secretary at least 7 days before the hearing at which you're going to appear. Now, I suppose this is going to be a legal technicality whether Braille is interpretation or not interpretation. And the question is, how do we proceed from there? Because we had asked them to give us that notification, everybody that is to appear in front of this committee, to give us that request 5 days before they are expected to appear to this or to participate in this inquiry. So I thought I would put that on the table. And get an indication whether members are happy that we allow the legal team to address us on this matter and on this matter only. and how do we take it forward? Mr. Singh, I'm going to take only 2 hands. Oh, everybody wants to speak. Before you continue, Mr. Singh, I am appealing as the chair, that we should not get bogged down with technicalities. So when you respond, please give us direction, everybody, when you respond. I really don't want to get into the debate. I want somebody to give us an indication in terms of the way forward. We cannot continue to delay these proceedings much longer. And I'm hoping by the time that you've responded and Mr. Maguve, Professor Maguve and his team have responded, I would have a word from this committee, from support in terms of the possibility of having that done. But I thought I must qualify it by indicating that we had sent that letter to everybody with that paragraph there. I also want to indicate to the legal team that all other documents that we've sent to Professor Maguve were sent in Word to allow Professor Maguve to do the translation to Braille on the board's request. The request was that we send it on Word so that it can be translated into Braille, and that was the request from the SABC. We've not received any request contrary to that until 11 o'clock when we returned. I'm contextualizing it because I don't want us to enter into a debate. We must take a decision and we live or die by our decision in terms of our decision. I really think that's how serious it's become. So now that we've all got the context, let me hear what you've got to say, Mr. Singh.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Chair. Chairperson, the first report that we are going to receive is a report of the Auditor General. Now, I would take it that this report has been made available not only to the board of the SABC, as it existed at that time, and the management, but also to the Portfolio Committee on Communications. And if that is the case, this is nothing new. This is not something new before many members of the SABC. It's probably new in front of us as members of this ad hoc committee. And I think we should proceed, that the Auditor General should be given an opportunity to proceed with presenting the report, unless he says this is a completely new document or information that he's providing to Parliament and to us. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. I think as a committee we should take serious exception to this, what has just happened. It is nothing more than a vexatious, pathetic attempt to try and delay this committee. There are 3 reports under discussion today. The Public Protector report, which the chairperson of the SABC board should have read and read again and should have copies of. He knew long time ago that it was going to be discussed. Why didn't he bring it with him? Number 2, the AG's report. This annual report came out months ago. Surely that the chairperson of the SABC board has read and read and read again the AG's report. Number 3, ICASA. ICASA's report on the violent protest ban, the chairperson of the SABC board should have read and read and read those documents again. Furthermore, as you said, Chairperson, on the 17th of November, you indicated to all the witnesses that there would be translating services provided. Now, at the 11th hour, when they see that they cannot stall this process, they again attempt to try and stop what we're doing by coming up with this really what is really a pathetic attempt to try and stall our work. So we absolutely must proceed. If there needs to be notes taken, notes can be taken for Mr. Maguve, but we cannot wait.
Yes, Chair. I think in light of the fact that there was a request made to yourself by the SABC for you to provide the documentation in Word so that it can be converted to Braille, and that you complied with that request, I think Parliament has done its work. I think we must proceed. I think Mr. Maguve and his legal team are not taking us seriously. Thanks.
Now let me hear from Honorable Khoza.
Chair, you know there are times when one's tolerance levels are pushed to the limit. You know, sometimes we self-sabotage by not doing the right thing. This process is inevitable. It's going to take place anyway. And besides that, we are talking about public institutions here. And in this information age, these reports are readily available as well on the internet. We are not talking about top secret documents. These documents have been released to the members of the public. Everybody has access to these documents. And I honestly don't think, Chair, it is reasonable on their side to think that we are going to tolerate that. In as much as we are very accommodating and we are very logical beings, but there is a time when we have to put our foot down and say no.
Before I allow you, Honorable Waters, and then I'm going to take a decision. We received an email from Teresa Geldenhuys, who is part of the SABC. Dear Cindy, I acknowledge receipt of the communication and will respond to the previous emails under separate cover, full stop. Kindly resubmit the communication in Word format in order to allow the chairperson to transcribe same into Braille to allow him to be able to read it. Kind regards, Teresa. I'm not going to allow you to comment, Mr. Waters. We are continuing with this process. AG, it's yours.
Thank you, Honourable Chair and Honourable members of the Ad Hoc Committee. My name is Eugene Zungu. I'm the national leader in the office of the Auditor General, and I'm here with the team to present the summary of our reports for the last 3 years, being ending March 2014, March 2015, and March 2016. And the team that is accompanying me on the furthest left is Alice Muller, who's the corporate executive responsible for the audit of the SABC. And next to Alice is Promise Buthelezi, who's the senior manager. And at the back is the other senior manager responsible for this audit, being Zipho Mdluli, and next to him is Nico Mahlaudi, who's the manager. I think as a combination of the team, we're going to deal with the presentation together. I think at this point, if I can hand over to Alice to kickstart the process.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. Morning, Honourable members. As
have been stated in our presentation. We've issued a hard copy presentation to all the members. On page 3 of the presentation, the Auditor General is here to enhance accountability, oversight and governance. In order to... Can I continue, Chair? Okay. In order to just set the tone for the audit outcomes, we examine 3 areas when we look at the audit reports. We look at the financial statements, whether they fairly present. We do have a review on the reliability and the credibility of performance information, and we also look at the compliance elements that the entity have to comply with. If you want to understand what audit opinions mean, we've included the slide 5 and 6 on the audit opinions just shortly. If you have financial statements that are free of misstatements, the performance report are useful and reliable, which means it's credible, and there's no non-compliance, material non-compliance that we've noted, we issue a clean audit opinion, which means it's unqualified with no other matters. When it's unqualified with other matters, it means that on the financial statements, the entity is doing well, but that they still experience challenges with performance information and compliance matters. We also issued qualified opinions if there's any areas in the financial statements where we believe that the information presented in the financial statements, any account balance, is either not accurate or valid or complete. We will then qualify that specific area in the financial statements. An adverse audit opinion means that the financial statements are wrong, in short. And a disclaimed audit opinion means that we could not get enough information to determine whether it's right or wrong, and for that we then withhold an audit opinion. In the case of SABC, and I'm now on slide 7, for the last 3 years we've issued a qualified audit opinion. And Honourable Chairperson, you asked us to reflect on the last 3 years, but I think it will be good to mention that for 12-13, the year just before, the SABC received a disclaimer of audit opinion. So they started off with a disclaimer in 12-13 and then worked their way towards improvements. Although on this slide, you will note that they still qualified. I think I also would like to note that the factual correctness of the findings in the audit report were confirmed during the audit process, and there was no contestations around any matters that were raised in the audit report. Lezi was the engagement partner on the assignment, the senior manager responsible for the audit. So I'm going to ask him to share the insights on the specific audit with you as we continue with the presentation.
Alice, thanks. I'm going to cover the exact outcomes in the past 3 years, and how I'm going to structure my presentation. I'm going to look into the financials, performance information, and compliance, because I mean that's normally our structure of our report. So as we've highlighted that in terms of the financial statements, the SABC has received the qualification in the past 3 years. We must recognize the progress which has been made in terms of resolving some of the qualifications over the past 3 years. I mean, you'll see that in 2014 there were 8 paragraphs in the audit reports in terms of qualification. So in 2015 it reduced to 3. Well, ideally it's 2, but I mean 3 because there's tax implications in terms of the TV licenses. And also you'll see that what has been common in the outlook of the 3 years has always been a regular, fruitless and useful expenditure disclosure note. And I think what's very important and critical to mention is in terms of the control environment, it's still weak. So the progress, which is good, has been made in the past 3 years, has been resolved via the usage of consultants. Now, the issue with that is the sustainability of the internal controls is not there. because I mean it's like you're fixing the issue and then you're gone. So I think it's going to be very important that we highlight that, because ideally for the entity to be able to sustain the clear administration, it's going to require the basic, the daily and the monthly internal controls. If maybe I can zoom into the qualification which was there last year. I mean, as I've mentioned before, it's a qualification which has been sustained by the entity for the past couple of years, and in that in the table which I've included on slide 9, I've included the amount of irregular expenditure which has been identified. Again, I think I must be very clear there. It's the amount identified in that year, not necessarily that it's incurred in that year. So you will see that there's some amounts relating to the current year. There's also the amounts which are relating into the previous years. But also, I think what's important is the amounts which has been shown there in their financial statements. If you refer into the annual report, you'll see it's note 43. The amount which is shown there is not the credible and the true reflection. What I mean by that is it can be more, it can be less, mainly because our qualification was based on the disclosure notes. And you'll see again, if you refer into our report, in the annual reports, you'll see that we've highlighted issues on the overstatements, so which means there's amounts which are shown there which are not supposed to be there. We've also included in our report the issue of the understatement, so which means we've identified some irregular expenditure which has not been shown there also. And there's some issues that we've picked up in terms of the records management, which means there's some information which we requested was not provided. So in short, there's a closing balance of it's 5.1 billion in note 43. However, yeah, as I said, we've qualified the amount, so the information which is appearing there is not the information that we can fully rely on. And again, I'm assuming that we've read through the annual reports. So if you look specifically in note 43, which is regular, fruitless, and useful expenditure disclosure notes, you'll see the nature of the irregular expenditure which has been shown or which has been disclosed there is in the past, in the current year, there's been issues where the original tax clearance has not been provided, which is part of the requirements in terms of the SCM regulations. And then you'll see also that there's been payments made without the contract. Okay, if you want the full values and details, they've been shown there in the disclosure notes. And also there's some weaknesses which are there in terms of their contract management when it comes to the suppliers. And also there's been issues where the SCM processes has not been implemented. Like, for example, the incorrect evaluation of the criteria in terms of evaluating the different bidders, where in some cases we've picked up that the minimum number of quotations as per their policy, they were not obtained. So I mean the examples that we've included, they are impacting on the principle of fairness and yeah, as per the PFMA. If we look in slide 11, again there, it's just the exact amounts on fruitless and wasteful expenditure. It's shown in the same note as per the annual reports. So again, it's the entire note that we've qualified. So those numbers also, which have been shown there in in that note, they are also not the numbers that one can rely on. So, which it takes me to the compliance issues, which ideally they're starting from slide 13. So you'll see that how we look at our compliance, it's technically interlinked into our audit of the financial statements. So you'll see in most cases, whatever non-compliance that we are reporting has been also linked or has been reported also in terms of the financial statements. And if you look at the number of the non-compliances, it talks back into what I've mentioned before, that there is still the significant issues in terms of the control environment. So if those basic, the daily and the monthly controls are not there, so there's going to be the significant non-compliances, obviously, which then will translate into the negative opinion. So in detail, we have the annual financial statements. Ideally, it means in the past 3 years, the financial statements which are submitted, they are always corrected via our process. So meaning the significant misstatements that we pick up every year. So had we concluded on those financial statements, maybe the qualification paragraphs, they were going to be more. However, with our process, we're able to resolve a couple of material misstatements. And then you'll see there's issues there in terms of the asset, expenditure management, procurement management. Well, in 14 and 15, there were issues on the revenue management, which were merely linked into the TV licenses. And then I think one significant non-compliance also that I'd like to highlight is the consequence management. So ideally, this is interlinked into our qualification on regular, fruitless, and wasteful expenditure, in the sense that, as per the PFMA, once you've incurred irregular expenditure, your next step is to investigate it and take any necessary steps if it needs be. So it covers the compliance part. And then we can move into the performance information, which has been covered on slide 15. So there, what we do, we'll take obviously the corporate plan and look whether is it making sense. Will the oversight structures be able to hold the entity accountable? So I mean, we'll look into the usefulness of that corporate plan. Is it making sense? Is it well defined? Are the targets realistic? Can one hold the entity accountable as to what they said they were going to do, and have they been able to do it? So in the past 3 years, we've had issues in terms of in terms of their corporate plans, and also from there we look into the performance reports. So to say, so you've wanted to achieve, for argument's sake, you wanted to achieve 15 provincial insets, and if I'm unable, well, and then say you'll show 10. If I'm not able to verify the 10, so I can't also confirm on the credibility of the actual information which is appearing there in their performance reports. So again, in the past 3 years, we've had issues in terms of the reliability of the performance report. And then the last phase of my presentation is looking into the overall, the key controls, the assurance providers, what we've picked up as the root causes, and what we've recommended in the past, which we have suggested that if those things are implemented, I think they'll change the status of the internal controls. We've included what we think is all the role players which must be involved in providing the oversight in terms of the internal controls. So you'll see we've included, mainly our assessment has been on the first level, where we're looking at the senior management, so it's your ExCos, it's your accounting authority, the board, and your executive authority, which is the oversight ministry. And then there's the second level and the third. I think the conversation is going to be better if we move to the next slide, where we've done our own assessment. Again, the assessment that we've done, it's interlinked into our opinions, so it's interlinked into the findings that we've reported in the past 3 years. So if you look at the first tier there of the senior management, so we have red, or it's supposed to be red. It looks guava. We have red, we have yellow, and green. Ideally, red would mean it requires intervention. In terms of yellow, it means it's providing some assurance. However, there is more which can be done. And then in terms of green, it means we are fully happy, and obviously it would translate into the more positive opinions. So in that tier, we've assessed it as red, yellow, yellow, and again, it's mainly because there's been some vacancies, or there's been vacancies. There's been some. There's been some suspensions. So ideally, overall, the incumbents of those positions they've not been stable in the past 3 years, and I mean it becomes very hard for one to be able to provide the effective oversight, more especially if you're looking at the senior managements. You're talking about people which are there on a daily basis, who should be able that they monitor the internal controls. And then if you look at the accounting authority, ideally, which is the board. So again, there's been vacancies in the past 3 years. There's been some instabilities also, which are there, again, it makes it very hard for one to be able to provide the effective oversight. And also, our major assessment was on the fact that in the past 3 years, there's been some issues that we've reported in terms of the control environment, and I mean if the situation is not changing, so which means as far as our process is concerned, so it means we feel maybe there's some more which can be done by that structure. And then in terms of the executive authority, our assessment was done at a portfolio level to say there's a couple of the initiatives which one would commit on. Like, for example, you'd have the quarterly meetings with ourselves and all the entities. So in the previous year, there's been those effective meetings which were there. So our assessment was done in that regard. And then in terms of the second level, we have the internal audit, and then we have the audit committee. The reason why we've highlighted the internal audit as green, it's mainly because our assessment of the internal control environment and their assessment is similar. So which means ideally they are doing what they're supposed to do. However, it's just that those similar findings as ours, which they are reporting, now they just need to be implemented. So we thought we are happy with that structure. It's just that it's more of the implementation now, which must happen, which should be more on the management side. In terms of the audit committee, it's linked into the internal control environment. ideally, the only time that this committee would be green, it's because there's clean administration, there's no material misstatement. So ideally, they are providing that effective oversight in terms of the control environment. So that slide, if you read it with the slide on number 19, you will see that there's going to be the similarities. So what we do, we'll assess the internal control environment. We'll look into the leadership, we'll look into the financial and performance management, and then we'll look into the governance. So I mean, it's clear in terms of the leadership. There's been issues in terms of the of those structures. They are not stable. So, which I've covered in the previous slide, and also one very important thing which was not there, which has resulted in us assessing the 2016 as red. It's because the performance management system was not implemented in there. The policies, they've been crafted and all of that. However, they've not been implemented. And I mean, without an effective performance system, it can't then it can't result into the clean administration, which is the plan ideally. Okay. So in terms of the financial and the performance management, the entity has been qualified for the past 3 years. So surely it means there is some intervention which is required. We've recognized the fact that the qualification paragraphs have reduced. However, it's those basic things which are required. It's your daily, it's your monthly controls, it's your basic reconciliations. It's having a proper record management system. It's not having any misstatements on a daily basis, basically. So they were saying there's still some intervention which is required. And then in terms of the governance, mainly we look we look into the internal auditing process rather than the function, and then we'll also look into the risk, into the risk assessments. So in terms of the function, it's there. However, it's just that the findings which the internal audits is reporting, they are not being implemented effectively. So again, we were saying there can still be some significant improvements. So in slide 20 and slide 21, we've included what we've picked up as the root causes of this poor control environment, and we've suggested some recommendations, which again, I think I must highlight that is the recommendations which we've been highlighting in the past 3 years. They've been similar. So I think if they can be implemented, we can see some significant changes. And I mean, the root causes that we've picked up is the instability and the vacancies in the key positions. We feel their action plans in terms of resolving the qualifications, yes, they've been there. However, they've not been effective, more especially as far as the regular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure is concerned. It's the not having enough consequences for not implementing those action plans. It's the we feel also in terms of their performance management system, the issues that we've been reporting in the past have not been resolved at a quicker rate. And then there's still some poor record management system for them to be able to support the financial and the performance information. And I think one key one is not having sufficient consequence management for some non-compliances. So, as part of our recommendations, ideally, they are responding into the root causes which I've highlighted, to say you'll need to have you need to fill the vacancies with the competent skill. You'll need to ensure that when you're submitting the financial statements to us, well, and obviously the performance information, it's been reviewed thoroughly, so which means there's sufficient assurance providers which will be able to review in detail. And then you just need to ensure also that there's an effective record management system, more especially in terms of the supply chain, because that's where we've picked up the significant weaknesses. And there should be the stability in the governance structures, which are providing the oversight. And also, rather than having the action plans in place, those action plans must be implemented, and they should be able to address our findings and also the findings of the internal audits, because mainly they are more or less similar. And then you improve and beef up the daily and the monthly controls in terms of those daily transactions. And then there should be an effective performance management system, which will ensure that it's holding everyone accountable. So, yeah, in a nutshell, I think that's what we've been reporting in the past 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, AG. We will allow for members. Remember, members, this is about information gathering for our report. And members will all have an opportunity to speak. But before I do that, just so that we are clear on both sides, I want to refer you, AG, to page 90 of the current annual reports. If you don't have it, I'll read it. Page 90 of the current annual report. 90. The page that is headed Statement of Responsibility. And if I take you to the very last paragraph, AG, it says, and it speaks about the financial statements that you've just been talking to now. It says, the directors of the corporation accept responsibility for the annual financial statements, which were approved by the Board of Directors on the 31st of July 2016, and assigned on behalf of the SABC Board Chairperson and the Acting Group Executive as seen below. Signed by Acting GCEO and signed by Prof. Maguve. So the question that I'm putting to you for a response, is it correct for us to interpret, by virtue of the signature of the chair of the board and the acting GCEO, accepting responsibility of the financial statements which were approved by the board, is it reasonable for this committee to accept that these documents were read by and understood by the board? That's the only question that I want to ask. By virtue of them accepting responsibility, signing for it as the professor and as the acting GCEO, is it reasonable for this committee to accept that if you accept responsibility and it has been approved by the board, that the board actually, or the chairperson in this case, actually read those documents? Would you comment on that?
No. Thank you, Chair. I think the very short answer is that it is absolutely correct to make that assumption, because that's what this statement of responsibility entails.
Thank you very much. I thought it was important for us to put that on the record, because what we were dealing with here was the financial statements where the chair and the GCEO accepted responsibility on behalf of the board with their signatures, just so that it's very clear that it was not an unreasonable conclusion reached by the committee on this particular matter. Having said that, let me open up to members if there are any questions of clarity. And members, please, if we could be efficient with our questions, we will take maybe 2 or 3 questions, allow you to respond, 2 or 3 questions, allow you to respond, and then wrap up on this matter. Let's start with Van Dam, Killian, I beg your pardon, Singh, Kubiso, Mamkoza. Have you got your hand up? Mokoena, Chauke, and then Jabu, Matlangu. We are not going to all ask. After a certain point, we will come to round 2. Honourable Matlangu. Can we start with Killian? And can I also request, honourable members, that we all limit our, I beg your pardon, Van Dam, that we all limit to at least 2 questions so that we allow everybody to participate, as opposed to one person asking 100 questions. If that is fine, you'll have a second round. Over to you, ma'am.
Thanks, Chair. I'll definitely be brief. Thanks to the AG's office for appraising us on the financial management at the SABC. It's quite clear that the financial management has regressed over the last 5 years. My question has to do with consequence management. In the latest annual report, the AG's office remarks that disciplinary steps were not taken against officials who made and permitted irregular, fruitless and wasteful expenditure as required by Section 51(1)(e) subsection 3 of the PFMA. That section states that the accounting authority for a public entity must take effective and appropriate disciplinary steps against any employee who makes or permits irregular expenditure or fruitless or wasteful expenditure. Which employee would that be? Would that be the CFO, the COO, or would that be the board? So which entity must be held responsible and disciplinary action taken against in terms of that section in the PFMA? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Then can we move on to Ms. Killian?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. My 2 questions, the one links onto the PFMA and its centrality to the audit. Could you perhaps just indicate if it is which sections, apart from Section 51, specifically deal with public entities where you have a board and those fiduciary responsibilities of the board? Also about specifically their role to ensure prudent financial management. If you could respond to that. And secondly, if you could indicate as part of this question what relevance Treasury regulations have on state-owned companies. Could we also be direct as far as that concerned? The second question relates to your audit of what they are supposed to do. Now, clearly you have the Broadcasting Act, and the Broadcasting Act is very specific as far as the SABC's public and commercial enterprises are concerned. Have you, in fact, assessed whether they have compiled their financial statements in terms of the Act? Have they therefore complied with the Broadcasting Act's prescripts? If you have not done so, if you could just address us on that matter. Thank you, Chair.
Honourable Singh.
Thank you very much, Chair. 2 questions. My first relates to reports. Before a final audit opinion is released, either to your clients or to Parliament or whatever, there's an exchange of, there's discussions between the management of the entity or organization and yourselves, which follows with the management letter. Now, are the contents of the managed letter privileged information between auditor and auditee? And can you make that management letter available to this committee? In the same breath, there are reports, the audit committee report, risk committee, internal audit report, and skills audit report. I'm sure you have had sight and are in possession of those reports. And can you make those reports available to the committee as well? My second question relates to recommendations and actions. Is there any action that you are aware of that was taken against any official within the SABC hierarchy in the last 3 years arising from your audit report? And who were those people and what action, and were you satisfied with the action that was taken against those who might have transgressed PFMA regulations or any other compliance matters? Thank you, Chair.
The last honourable member for this round will be Prof. Kubisa, and then we'll take responses and we'll move to the next. Prof. Kubisa.